Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hopefully you are doing well. Thanks for coming on by. One of my lights is not working, so I am John Canute in the dark, evidently. Let's go ahead and give that a try and see if we can't... Man, so the Elgato Mini, it's like a little fill light that I have. It is very inconsistent in terms of staying connected at all times. It's really annoying. Let's do our due diligence here and make sure that I can be heard over on the streaming platforms in which we are, which is over on Twitch and over on YouTube. My primary platform for now is YouTube, just because it's convenient. All right, my microphone's working. That's good news, because I must have... What the... Okay, so I must have hit like some button or something, because my mic was muted and I couldn't figure it out for the life of me, but it had muted it in Windows, and it's probably just a button on my keyboard. F7, I think, is the mute button. Anyways, it took me forever to figure out how to unmute myself, which was really annoying. But yeah, we have to soldier on. So this morning I came up here about 9:20 and got things put together, Central Time, and started troubleshooting all of that, and figured out that the sound was getting to my preamp, my sound was getting to my UMC just fine, just wasn't coming into the computer. And it was muted on the actual soundboard. like it wasn't showing up there. So had to be something local, and it couldn't have been cables because all the lights were showing up over here. So anyway, genius that I am, I must have fat fingered something at some point and hit the mute button. Probably when I was trying to troubleshoot my headset. So I have a HTC Vive VR headset, and my daughter likes to play a game called Moss. She's a preteen, so she likes to play a VR game called Moss, which is kind of a cool game. It's kind of cute, a little bit tricky to like figure out, but once you get the hang of it, it's a lot of fun. Well, anyways, I hadn't downloaded it on this new machine since I built it, and so I did that, and then of course all sorts of problems. And she needs to. It's a seated VR experience, so she had to kind of sit back, and my VR towers are kind of here, kitty corner. I cannot tell you how excited I am to finally get a real office space. It's still probably like a year away, but to actually have an office where I can build it for this, and I can build it for recording, and I can build it for work and all of that. So the wheels are in motion. That's going to happen sometime soon. But I also need to stop slouching here on the screen. The wheels are in motion. That's going to happen soon. But the actual building of that project. So I just need to tell everybody to go ahead and start working. And I've got some work to do too. I've got to move some drain lines and whatever before that all starts. All right, let's jump over to the chat and see who's here. Apparently, no one here but us chickens. What's going on, Chad? Good to see you again. And Randy, you are all over the live streams. I think I saw you over at Tom's yesterday. Did you go to the bird dog one? Was it yesterday Tom had one? Maybe yesterday or 2 days ago. Man, the days are running together. Here's why. Anyways, good to see you, Randy. Thank you for supporting your small time tech tubers. Here's what's going on. So we have some friends in town. So we just flew back from Toronto, Canada. This is the only Toronto I know of. We just flew back from Toronto on Saturday afternoon, and we got home at a decent hour. I had a friend pick us up from the airport. Everything worked out great. Customs, everything. It all was fantastic. There's a story there. I probably have told you the passport story. So we crammed hard to get that passport for the kids, both passports for the kids, and get ours and whatever. But then the flight there, the flight home, our time in Toronto was fantastic. So loved everything about it, and had a really great trip. Had to miss you guys, but it was a small sacrifice I had to make to be with my extended family, my aging parents, and my sister and her daughter were up from Texas, and my brother is in town, so he was with us most of those days. So it was great. We had a good time. So we got back on Saturday, and then we had Sunday. I was working, so Sunday morning I had to get everything together while I was in Toronto. Saturday night I came home and rendered some videos that we were going to use on Sunday. I don't like operating on a last-minute basis. I usually try and have everything for Sunday done on a Thursday, which is today, and so that's the goal for today, is to get Sunday done. But got home, rendered videos, did Sunday, was out till 1 or 2, probably 1:30 in the afternoon, and then came home and then started putting our house, unpacking from our trip, and then started putting our house back together so that we could have company this week, because we have some friends from Michigan who have been our friends for a very long time, it's been my friends ever since they got married, and my wife's best friend, essentially, ever since she was in college. And so they're here visiting for the week with their kids, and so we had to prep the house for that, make sure that didn't look like we lived in a dump. And then they showed up on very early Wednesday morning. Then come to find out, as they were rolling in the driveway, their alternator gave out on their vehicle. So both Ralph is his name, Ralph and I have been strong-arming that, trying to figure out how to get the alternator out of his vehicle to put the new one in that he bought. So we're working on that this week. So it's been busy a little bit. In other news, the next show, which will not be next week but the following, the next show that we talk about is going to be about pentographs. And you may not know anything about that. You may not be interested in that. However, these are basically scissor lifts that allow you to fix lights or cameras to a thing that will go up and down in the ceiling. If you remember, there is a bird dog like promotional video, somebody over in Amsterdam or Europe or somewhere, and they have this beautiful lecture hall, and they have two cameras, two P200s in that video on pentographs, and he's able to basically flip a switch, they lower down, and then he flips the switch again, they stay in position, and then he can control his PTZs after his audience has sat down, and then when right as the show is ending, he can raise those up to the ceiling, and they're out of the way, and no one's going to bump them, but he gets like that in-person shot, like that in the audience view, and that's what I'm going for. So I cannot wait. We have one. It arrived. I have photos, and I will talk about that. However, tomorrow we've hard installed the actual hardware for the Pentograph. This is a SWIT, SWIT Pentograph. It's really designed for like 28 kilos of lighting fixtures. We're not using it for lights. We're using it for a PTZ that we have. Now, it's not a Bird Dog PTZ because we haven't decided which way we're going to go with our next upgrade for PTZ. And quite frankly, the camera's pretty good. However, this shot, I kind of want to have the AI follow stuff on board. And I was very impressed with what Bird Dog has done with theirs. I was also duly impressed with the Canon stand that when we saw it at NAB and their AI algorithms for following. So I need to do some testing. Unfortunately, my resources at Bird Dog are getting a little more limited. Some of the guys that helped me out with some of this stuff since my departure have also left, and so I don't really have the draw like I used to at Bird Dog to like test a product and see if it's something we want to go with or get one here in my office for testing. And quite frankly, I'm not really set up for it, so I don't know. However, I was able to see them at NAB. They were pretty good. Obviously, their big flagship at NAB was the Mackie line, and that wasn't really their PTZ stuff. They did have the PTZs also kind of on display, but it seemed like the launch of Mackie Live and that line were kind of taking precedent, and their rebrand of Bird Dog Cloud, which is now called Bird Dog Connect. So we had a chance to see them at NAB, but I didn't really have... I was visiting. Shocker. I wasn't really there to like steer the products and make them crash like I would have if I was the support guy. But I did also have a chance to kind of test out the AI stuff that was coming out from Canon. And so both were equally impressive. I got to look at price point. I got to look at how to match. So we have Canon lenses at the soundstage. And so both of these would work just fine. For coloration and that sort of thing. But I just have to kind of sit down and really do the homework about it. And unfortunately, I can't really get my hands on anything. We're not a huge production suite or anything, so we'll have to really work on that. All right, I see things going on in the chat, so let's do this. What is going on, Angus? Howdy, howdy. Good to see you, as always. Thank you for checking in. Another Canadian brother of mine. Just for a change, I'm on a show. And will only be here for a bit. Okay, well, you've made it to the beginning of the show, and you've heard all the introduction, and you're here, and I'm put your stuff up, so it's great. Randy, also from Winnipeg, another Canadian. I was messing with NDI and Dante and Discovery and Netgear Engage until 3 a.m., so I got very little sleep, but I would not miss your show. Well, that is incredibly kind. My goodness, I don't know what it is that I have done to deserve that sort of loyalty. Certainly don't neglect your sleep or your health for this show. I can't advocate necessarily that it would be worth it, but I am thrilled that you have gone to such lengths to join me here today on YouTube. Hey, by the way, today's show, our non-sponsor, but a group that I really appreciate is Kibo Group, and they are a coffee company from Uganda. They employ a ton of people in Uganda. They grow coffee, and then they ship it to the States, and there are tons and tons of coffee shops across, well, maybe not tons and tons, but there are several coffee shops across universities in the United States that sell their coffee to the campuses and also the grounds, and they brew coffee, and Most notably, the one that I'm familiar with is over at Rochester University in Rochester Hills, Michigan. I think still headed up by a guy named Mr. Norman, and he is a legend in his own right, but he has really committed himself to helping Kibo and keeping that going. He heads to Uganda at least once a year, if not more, and he runs that coffee shop, and he always had run that coffee shop. I don't know if he's still there or not, but shout out to Larry Norman for all of his hard work. So Kibo Group, they do good stuff. And, of course, secondarily, unfortunately, I don't have any Kibo coffee, but today is Tim Hortons. And so giddy up, little half and half in there, and we are good to go. Now, I won't show you the color of it because I'm sure someone will mock me for how much creamer I am or am not using, but rest assured, it's doing the thing. All right, it's a little cool actually, so I better drink that quick. I was trying to save it for the show, and now I've talked for 12 minutes, and it's going cold. Hey, Randy licked my shirt. Yes, I wore this one. It's on the thumbnail today for the show, which I generated this morning rather quickly because I was like, oh shoot, I don't even have a placeholder for this tip for today. But yes, I bought this. I have one that says Toronto and one that says Nashville. And so I figured I just got back from Toronto. I wore this one last Thursday, and I'll wear it again today. It actually smells like my parents' house because we did laundry before we left, and so it smells like my mother did my laundry. So there you go. We actually did it, but we used their detergent, and that's what it smells like. Hey, I have been through the ringer this past week. My main vMix rack computer started crashing. The vMix support folks said it appeared to be a GPU related. I fired the money cannon to replace my GPU, and it was still a bit flaky. I did a BIOS and chipset firmware updates, vMix and NDI reinstallation, and finally ended up reinstalling Windows. Oh, let me throw that up there, which can be a brutal process. I'm so sorry. I'm feeling for you here. And now it's been running for 5 days uninterrupted without an issue. Well, there you go. So are you Windows 11 now? And probably, right? You probably were before, but probably Windows 11. And oh man, those are heartbreaking troubleshooting moments. It always works on the last thing you try, right? So the reinstall of Windows is probably your issue. However, you probably got a really nice GPU out of it, right? So what are you running now? What's the GPU? Now I'm interested to know. Probably better than what I have. Here's an interesting thing that I know. So I mentioned earlier that my daughter likes to play a game called Moss, and I play it too sometimes. But it's a VR game. It's a little like storybook about a mouse, and it's not necessarily for kids. It's cute, and the mouse is a little fuzzy. You control the mouse and whatever. It's cute, but the story is a little violent at times. So, and he carries around a sword and slays things. So, anyways, we like to play this game, and that's great. However, I have noticed the performance from the previous computer I had. So I have a vMix machine, my old vMix machine that I used to run this show off of, that now strictly does my NDI sources. So encoding for NDI sources, my camera, screen captures, a few things. And they send those over via Discovery Server, which I'm happy to talk about this at some point. Maybe I'll make a show about this, how this is all now configured. They send those over. I've got a Discovery Server on my current machine. Everything is DHCP reservation, of course, and all those sources come over to this computer, and then I send the vMix output back via NDI to that original machine again, and it shows it on Studio Monitor. So I'm actually watching the output of vMix on a Confidence monitor inside my little teleprompter. And so it's taken like 3 years to kind of get this far. I won't say done because, we're never done. Right? We're never done improving. If you have arrived, you've actually failed. So don't arrive. Keep moving forward to something better, sharpening that sword, and it'll always get better. It'll always get, your productions can always get better. Be thinking that way. We had somebody at our soundstage say, so when are we going to be done with like all the tech changes? And my counterpart, my fellow employee and technically my boss said, never. And I was so proud of him for saying that. He said, we're always going to be getting better. We're always going to be looking for the next thing. That's the point of this, is like we're hiring tech guys as well as ministers to keep us on the edge of where technology is going. And so it's always going hopefully in a positive direction. Doesn't mean you're going to implement something that doesn't work and that fails or that people hate, but that's a part of the process. It doesn't mean that you failed. It just means you found out a way not to do the thing you're trying to do. So there's a quote about that, but I won't look it up because I'll butcher it. Hey, if the last thing you try doesn't fix it, it's not going to be the last thing you try. Well stated, Chad. Well stated. Love it. Angus likes that. Hey, it's always the last thing that you try that works, because when it works, you stop trying. I'm glad that everybody's on the same page with this theory. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Interestingly, there were a couple of things in Windows that had been a bit flaky, and so it's safe to say the Windows reinstall was overdue. But it's all better now. Excellent. Well, I'm relieved. So Randy says Windows Pro plus Intel plus NVIDIA. That was the preferred winning that is my preferred winning combination. You know what? That was mine as well for a very long time. We're kind of like sidetracked here, but I don't mind it at all. That was mine as well. Windows Pro, fine. An Intel processor with a NVIDIA card. I changed, remember, when we built this computer, because we did this together, but I'm responsible for it. I'm not going to blame you for any of it. So I went to an AMD chip, and I was a bit concerned about it just because I've never really bought an AMD board or chip or any of that. And got to say, I've actually been kind of happy with it. I don't have any complaints. It seems to run. There are a few quirks, but I think that I could force my Intel chip to also have those quirks, so I don't think it's limited to just the AMD side of things. But one of those quirks is when I plug in this external USB 2 terabyte hard drive, the computer does not boot. It goes into like it gets to like right before the BIOS loads, and it shows me like the little picture, and then it just doesn't do anything. It just sits there kind of in stasis. And as soon as I unplug it, the BIOS loads. Now, what's happening there is probably I told it to boot on USB, and there may be something on that hard drive that's saying, oh, I'm an image of something, right? So I need to go into the BIOS and change that. However, ask me if I ever remember to do that after I'm done rendering and editing or streaming or anything. No, I don't remember. I should write it down and do something about that, but I'm not going to, and I'm going to forget. So there you go. All right. We do have other things in the chat. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm all caught up. So, Companion. That's the headliner here. After we came back from Canada, had a wonderful trip, had no issues. It's a bit of a heart stopper finding out that we needed passports for all of our kids, for our two kids, all of our kids. My son is a handful. But anyways, for both of them. And then I needed to rush those through, so that was expensive. And then once we got them, we actually got them the week before we left, because we left on a Tuesday morning, so I needed them on Monday at the latest. They did arrive. We even got all their documents back and everything, so everything's fine. And then we did all the customs things on our phone. The only hang-up we had, and the only complaint I have, is one strike against WestJet. For the most part, WestJet, if you've never flown on them, I'm sure you Canadians have. WestJet is kind of like a little nicer than Spirit, which isn't saying much. But the cabins are clean. There's no computer screens in the seats or anything like that. There is a free Wi-Fi you can connect to watch shows on your own device, which seems like the economical thing to do. Like if you're not going to invest in screens on your airplane, you might as well. And shout out to Delta, because Delta has a lot of those. You might as well offer Wi-Fi with streaming service, because then people may or may not use it, whereas I'm always going to play with the computer screen if I sit down in front of it. Now, I didn't use the free entertainment because I don't really like watch movies and stuff on planes. Typically listen to podcasts or sleep, because I always pick early flights and I need to sleep. So, all right. So we flew home to Nashville on a direct flight from Toronto to WestJet. I really like the fact that WestJet offers a direct to Nashville from Toronto. That makes it very convenient for me to go home and see my family and only spend 2 hours doing it. And if you think about that distance, like my friends just drove here from Michigan, which is 4 hours from Toronto. If you were to drive it, you have to drive either through the night and drive like 7.5, 8 hours to get here, or break it up over a couple of days. And so if you're just going for the long haul, great. But if you need to be functional the next day, that's going to be pretty tricky if you go like right through the night. And so my poor friend, he drove through the night. He drove his wife and 2 kids, young kids, through the night so they could sleep. And then when he got here, his kids woke up and were ready to go, and he had to crash, and he crashed until 10 or 11. So maybe like 9:30. But anyways, it's an investment, and you kind of lose a day if you do it that way. But if you fly, and if you get a direct flight, then it's 2 hours from takeoff to landing from Toronto to here. 2 hours. I mean, you can't get from Michigan to Toronto in 2 hours. And so the fact that you can go from Toronto to Nashville in 2 hours is like insane because you're doing 550 miles an hour. So for the price of about $170 each way, you can get a WestJet nonstop. It's just the flight home is at 4 p.m. Eastern, and the flight there, it wasn't direct flight there, but it was like a 6 a.m. flight, so really early. Let's jump over here and just follow up on our chat. Hey, I don't have any problems with AMD either at work, but I don't have Intel QuickSync, which makes me a little sad. The machine is Windows 11 Pro, AMD 7950X, and now a brand new NVIDIA 5060. Ooh, that would be slick. I hope you're enjoying it. Mine is a 4060, so you're, what is that, the next generation? Well, anyways, you're 1,000 better than me. If that's not how it works, but there you go. Yes, so we've had quite the week building up to me being on the show. Now, just heads up, next week I'm not around either because we are going to be in Virginia all next week. We'll leave on Sunday afternoon. We're driving, after I just got done talking about how great flying is, we're driving out to, and I didn't do the one strike against WestJet. We're driving out to Virginia, and then we're driving home. And we're going to hit up a couple of the national parks and have a bit of a family vacation. So I will be out next week. However, the following week, we're going to do pantographs because the install should be done. It actually should be done by tomorrow if I'm able to go in early and get it all done. And then I got to automate it. And that'll be a little fun update as well. So more on that. In 2 weeks is when I'll come back. I will put a placeholder up because I took photos the other day when we were installing it. And so you'll know when the next show is. The WestJet strike. The only strike against WestJet is that when we rolled up, I had done everything through the app. And the WestJet app was kind of shady because I booked the flights through Delta, and Delta and Korean Air owns 25% of WestJet. And in hopes that WestJet will become more of an international style airline, okay? So they're trying to expand into the U.S. They already have hundreds of flights, I think, that come to the U.S. Major international hubs, Houston, Dallas, Nashville, Chicago, and then a lot of them like Las Vegas, and there's even a couple that go to L.A., and then East Coast as well, so New York City and LaGuardia, JFK, blah, 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 blah. So they're doing a lot of that already. So I booked the flights through Delta because I have a reward system through there, and Delta booked it for me on WestJet. I could not access my tickets through the Delta app for the WestJet flight home. I had to download the WestJet app and then put it in. I had to wait a few days for it to kind of go through everyone's systems, and then it showed up. No big deal. When we were in Toronto the night before, I scanned our passports into the WestJet app to pre-board us for the flight. I also there's something called the MPC app, which is a way to get through U.S. customs coming back from an international port into the United States. If the airport permits it, you can use that app, and then it greatly speeds up. You get to you show up at the airport, you say, I'm here. It says, go to this lane, which is a fast track to the front of the line, and the guy literally took 10 seconds to verify our passports and to pull up our information. Everything matched, and he sent us through. It it had me pre-asked all those questions the night before. In that app, it pre-asked all the questions that customs asks. And so we were just traveling with backpacks, no luggage, no biggie, no issue, took us no time at all. So we got through Toronto airport really fast. When I walked up, we spent then like an hour and a half with my sister and her daughter who were flying back to Texas out of the same airport around the same time. So we spent some time there, and at 3:20, which is when our plane was going to board, we said our goodbyes, and we went to our opposite sides of the airport where my sister and her daughter were flying out of down one hallway, and we were down the other. So we said our goodbyes. We walked to our gate. I tried to find my son a bathroom because he's little, and I said, let's try and use the bathroom before we get on the plane, and then we'll meet Mom and my daughter at the gate. I walk into the bathroom. It's standing room only, waiting for these stalls, and my wife texts me and says they're calling last call for the flight to Nashville. So the guy only stood there for like a minute, and then I got this text message. So I was like, all right, son, you might get to use the bathroom on the airplane today. So off we went around the corner. We weren't far from the gate, and Holly was like, looked at me and then started walking up to the gate, and we walked up together. And the gate agent, who was excellent, by the way, said, oh, we've been calling you guys over the loudspeaker because we still need to scan your passports. And I was like, I did all this last night. And I know this because I had to take photos and upload it. And then it said, complete, everything's done. And he's like, yeah, it didn't work. So anyways, the WestJet agents were capable. Apparently, this is not the first time they've had to do this. And so they scanned our 4 passports, which I had, right like in a pouch around my midsection. Handed those to him. He scanned them, and we were on board. Show up, and the plane is only half full, and we were the second last group to get on. And so everybody had their own row, essentially, which was nice. And it was everybody was on board. They're like, all right, doors are closing a little bit early. We're going to push back right at 4, and off we go. So great, uneventful flight home. We were early getting to Nashville. I really like what airplane lines are doing, by the way, where they are overestimating how long it's going to take them. They always add like a half an hour or an hour to a flight. It's usually half an hour for me coming up to Detroit or Toronto. And then they're always early. So whenever we get there, you've arrived early. It's like, well, they've worked in that time so that they're always delivering ahead of schedule, which is, I think, genius on them. And I'm quite happy about it because I don't feel like we're arriving late. Interestingly, the 5060 is only PCIe 8, but it's a newer generation than my 4060. Oh, you have already purchased a 4060? I don't feel like that card's that old. Maybe I'm not due for an upgrade. I will probably run this card into the ground. Matter of fact, I'm still running my other G1 gaming cards in this computer that's doing all my NDI encoding, which I didn't finish that thought. Okay, so WestJet story over. This thought is my daughter plays Moss. I noticed that it seemed like my dueling, what are they, 3020s or something? I have 2 G1 gaming NVIDIA WindForce cards in that old computer. They're not SLI bridged anymore. They just run independently. They seem to run Moss on VR better than on this new 4060. And I wonder if it's because I'm running all these screens, right? And then I'm running an additional screen with the VR headset, so I'm technically running 4 screens out of a single graphics card, and I wonder if that's causing frame drop. So more testing needs to be done, which means that my daughter will have to play more, and I'll disconnect monitors and then run Moss again as a test and see if it works better. Okay, now the big update. Here we go. Where are we? All right, it's 10:30. So let's shift over to as Tom Sinclair would say, let's stop the pre-show and now get on with the actual show. So today's show is about Companion, and it's kind of a discovery episode because I saw that Doug, what's his name? Doug, I think his channel's like DTS Productions. He announced a few days ago, hey, Companion's out, here are the changes. And I was like, oh, I want to walk through this kind of blind and discover what's going on. So I have downloaded Companion 4.0, the stable 4.0.2, and the latest stable here today. And I've just kind of turned it on. Now, I did have to navigate a little bit without you because it broke all my buttons. And so in order to start the show, I needed to get in and figure out what was going on. But I can show you what's happening because, and let's go. All right, I'm going to move this here and this here so that I can share the screen. So I can show you what's going on here so that we can all kind of be on the same page. So if I go ahead and transition over, here is Companion 4.0.2, latest stable version available off their website this morning for Windows. There, you'll notice here all of my things that I've already connected came over from the previous version I was running, so 3 point something. And all they basically said was, all right, here are the changes that we've made. What I really like about this, and what Doug said in his brief video, was this is now all modular based instead of database based. So what used to happen was, that may be the wrong way to think about it, but in the previous versions of Companion, they would download all the modules that were available. So they'd add a module to Companion and then make an update available. And then you download it and like nothing would really change for you because it's unlikely that they would update your module. It's probably them adding newer modules for things. And Companion is very interesting because it uses a lot of mainstream things, but also has a lot of obscure modules that somebody has written for their purpose and then added it to the open source Companion setup. Now what's going on is you can add your obscure modules, but you don't have to download them. Like you as a different user doesn't need to download them necessarily. You can just pick the ones that you want. So that means that Companion is more of a shell that holds and offers all sorts of features, but you don't need to have all of the different modules that are listed here in the program. So on your computer locally, which kind of frees things up. I don't know if it makes it a more lightweight, a little faster. I don't know. But now that Companion 4.0 is out, we can try some stuff out. So as you see, when you first install or upgrade, you're going to get a bunch of these little error messages, unknown module. I'm assuming that if I click this button, it's just going to update all of them. And so we can go ahead and give that a try. And it does them in sequential order, which is kind of cool. And that really fixes now all of the other buttons on my Stream Deck that were kind of outstanding. Looks like VLC has a connection error. I'm not running VLC on this computer. I'm running VLC on that machine. So when I run sound effects, okay, so let's do that. That's what that's for. So if I open VLC, okay, VLC is now running there. Now I get a green check mark. And so then if I play a sound effect, it comes through, but it also shows now that VLC module is up and running because VLC is open on my local machine. So that is really cool. I mean, I really like this idea that I don't have to have all of these connections. That's what they call them, all of these kind of locally on my machine. Instead, I can add them one at a time, and we can even refresh the module list, which wouldn't have anything new, but we can download the ones that we want, and instead of needing to have all of them on my computer. Now, am I running? I'm not running. Here we go. So we'll open Studio Monitor, and this one should change. So now, yep, vMix Machine Studio Monitor is now running. That, again, is just buttons that are on my Stream Deck that I can manipulate what the output is without needing to actually do this and, which you can see in my screen behind me, do this. Instead of having to do this, I can just cycle through all of these sources, and Companion allows me to do that. So that's pretty neat.
That's pretty neat.
All right, and if you hear kids screaming behind me, that's because my kids and other kids are playing around in the house. So just FYI. Latest version, channel to mod. All right, so I haven't looked at any of these things otherwise, outside of what it is that we are currently running. But my key lights were offline, and what I had to do is just go in here and select the module version that I wanted to use. I don't think this does anything because it's probably currently being run. But I had just had to select latest stable and hit save, and then the module came on. So to upgrade from 3.5 or whatever you're on to 4.0 is fairly straightforward, and everything has come back for me. I don't have any custom things in here yet, but I have heard, and again through Doug, that you can now write kind of custom JavaScript. So that might be something I might play around with in the future. So we're upgraded here, and they have moved those tabs that were across the top now to the left-hand side, which, okay, cool. That's kind of a nice little user nicety, so that you can see all of your stuff. And then it's the same pages. However, it notices that I have an Xkeys 24. I don't want it to know that device because that device is actually connected to something else. So I'm going to say forget that. I would love to be able, if anybody from Stream Deck is watching, or from Companion, I would love to be able to resize this screen for a 5x3 Stream Deck instead of a, whatever this is, 8x4, which is the big one. I'd love for it to know that I'm using a 5x3 and then just display those buttons, because these are all the buttons that I'm using, and I've got to create pages for that. Whereas the default for Stream Deck is just to show all of these buttons and you use it just in general. I don't know if there's a way to do it. Under settings, evidently there is not a way to do that. Surface rotation, blah, 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 blah. Vertical offset in grid. What does that mean? I'm assuming that's the button, like the actual pictures or anything in the buttons. Oh, interesting. Okay, so that actually moves everything over by one. That's what that is. But there is no way for me to tell it what type of Stream Deck it is, and that's a bummer. So, anyways, all in good time. I think it's coming along quickly. But so far, that's new, that's like new stuff. Now, if we go over and we look at I just want to see the update notes here. So experimental 3.0 documentation. It's just the change notes, right? Do we have those in here? Remember that Companion is open source and free, so stop bickering when things aren't working, is what they're trying to say. Slack bug report. Releases. Let's try this one. Here we go. Download here, which I've already done. Companion release notes. Improve performance, bank style, bank push, bank current step, fix emulator names disappearing, fix connections for upgrade index being lost during imports, fix button image preview, sometimes showing stale images, I've never seen that, fix ensure connections, looks, blah, 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 full changelog is here, fix wizard grid, fix link surface lock, fix contour shuttle event, Ember Plus API. Oh, that's interesting because that's one module I'm using. Fix X keys not handling green backlight. Fix action execute. That must be for the obviously the RGB version. Visible full screen button if full screen API is not available. All right, so let's see this here. So version 3 can do it, but version 4 can't. Are you talking about the button screen? No, it's always been just the full Stream Deck. It's always been that, and you're just kind of only using the buttons that you want. But it's annoying and confusing for people that are getting started, I think, because where's my buttons here? Because, like, what are these buttons? Well, these buttons for you are nothing. You know, they're just blanks, and you can't use them. But for usability, you should be able to specify, I have a 15 button Stream Deck, and it would just show you the 15 buttons and then the page option instead of showing you the full option. One thing though, as a sidebar, is I do like that you can set up like test buttons in that area before pushing them over. So, you know, potato. Sometimes people like it, some people don't. but I don't see a place to change it. You would think it would be under configured here and under settings to change, how many buttons do you want to show? Again, it's probably not something high on their priority list. It's just a nicety. Ember Plus, I wonder, this latest stable, save. If I turn this on, does it? Ember, generic Ember Plus. So that's the one I have. Or is it? Oh, yes, it is. So bad configuration because I don't have the path put in here. Manual target host. So yeah, I don't have that. I don't have that cup here. I'll do that next time. Next time I have it. Anyway, so yeah, I don't think that we've had a bunch of module changes, and so the overview of this looks very familiar. I do like that they move the buttons over. I do like that it's kind of cleaned up a bit, but I really like this modular idea, and that you don't necessarily have to have all other 650 modules on your machine. Select a module to manage. Oh, cool. Look at that. So you can see all the releases and how old they are. Released 6 hours ago. What is this one? Connections being used. ProPresenter released 2 years ago. Come on, ProPresenter. Net New Tech released a long time ago. Ember 17 days ago. The ring lights a year ago. And the M42 was released about a year ago. So modules have not been refreshed very often, but I do love that you can see when the last time the module was updated and used. That's a really cool function. I kind of I wish there was an easy way to match stuff that you were using with available modules in Companion, because you kind of have to know, I'm going to see if I've got a Companion app for this, but there's a lot of Blackmagic stuff in here. That's cool. We use the ATEM one over at the soundstage, and I used to have it on here just as a test, but I don't have an ATEM here, so it's kind of clunky and doesn't make a lot of sense. You never really know if it's working. Every time I restored from backup, it gave me the option to choose my grid size. Fascinating. No emulators. Yeah, it has. I don't think I've ever seen that. Maybe can I edit it? This is the title, home position, view scale. Nope, that's obviously not. It's just scaling the screen. I don't want to do any of that. I could export it, I guess, and then restore from backup and see if that works. Maybe I'm missing it. Somebody can. Oh, here, surfaces, pin lock. See, oh, here, edit grid size. Dude, it's a 3x5. New grid size is. So what do we say? Rows. I got 3 rows. Whoops. And 5. Any buttons outside this boundary? No. What? 5, 4. Hang on here. 4 rows of 5 columns. I want 3 rows. What is going on here? Is this off? There we go. Save. Oh my goodness, did I just learn something? Look at you, Randy. Apparently, I just need to put the question out into the ether, and that will, it's completely unnecessary for it to be this large, but now I don't have all that extra wasted space. Oh, that's so nice. Amazing. Well, shout out to Winnipeg for saving the day or making this show just a little bit better. Okay, that's now iced coffee. Okay. So that's cool. So like I said, I don't think that there are module updates. As a matter of fact, it's more about them taking the stance of, no, we're going to be the host for all the modules, and then you don't have to update your module. You don't have to update the entire Bitfocus companion just to get the new modules, which you are probably not going to use. So, open countdown. What the heck is this? Install latest version. I mean, it's very quick. Is this actually a program? Be careful when downgrading module versions. Target IP. And then if I go to buttons, I don't know what I'm doing. I just found that program and thought, we'll try it out. So open countdown. Add 30 seconds to timer. Add 5 minutes. Add 1 minute. Preset. Is this actually a thing? Play controls. Messaging. Set to 15 minutes. Okay, so it's not obviously connected to anything. Okay, so it's probably a program I'm not running. Anyway, that's pretty simple. And then we can just dump this, delete this module, and off it goes, and it's no longer on the machine, I guess. So that's really nice. Maybe I'm not... Companion currently supports over 632 different things, and the list grows every day. If you can't find the device you're looking for, here are some guidance on ways to get support for your device. I mean, it is pretty amazing how many things are in here. BirdDog Cloud, BirdDog Central, BirdDog Converters, BirdDog PTC. Somebody's been busy getting things added. Let's take a peek at let's take a peek at this and just go to buttons. Create a button. Nope. Just say presets. It's going to make me put in an IP address. I just want to see. What it can do. But evidently that's not the plan here. So the other thing that I don't have much experience with is now writing custom JavaScripts on buttons. And so you can send script commands by just hitting a button, and it'll do the thing you have it programmed to. And, this is the thing I wanted to bring up. It now does if this, then that, which it took a really long time. But that is one of the primary things that was announced with 4.0 is now you can do if statements. So inside buttons, if we say create a button and we say press action, we say internal logic statements, if statement. When true, then do this. Otherwise, do this. That seems to be like one of what should be one of the primary functions of this sort of software. Because you're basically turning switches on and off. I mean, at the very end of the day, that's essentially what it is like when I press this button, do this thing. Well, now we can write if this, then that statements and say, look, if this is happening in vMix, or if I'm streaming, then, enable this, or if this is true, then do that. So it gives us lots of options now to customize these buttons beyond just standard button presses. One button can basically control and do multiple things with this sort of thing enabled, especially because when you press the button, you can then duplicate it. And so now they can do multiple things. So if we say, if vMix is doing this, then do these things. But if vMix is not doing this, then do this instead. Or on the same stroke, when we want vMix to do that thing, we also want our lights to do something, or we want our camera to do something, or we want our I don't know, we want to check focus, or I don't know what you want to do. But there's basically the ability now to do logic statements, which is a huge upgrade for this software. And you basically then punch in all of your module options. And so it's kind of nice that it's very much so plug and play. And you can put in all your internal statements as well if you want. So that's pretty great. I mean, I'm very happy to see this. This is an improvement. And I think it makes it a little bit more versatile. It certainly lightens the load of how often we will be upgrading Companion, I suspect. Although this just kind of came out and we're already on 402. Maybe that was the one they came out with first, but we will see how often Companion needs to be updated. I was getting a little annoyed, to say the least, when I would go to the soundstage once or twice a week and I would see that they had another version of Companion to update. And so I kind of like this. We could actually do that. Let me see here if I can pull that up. I will leave this computer. I know you can't see what I'm looking at just yet, but let me log into one of the machines over at the soundstage. We use Companion on two of them, so we can do an update there. One of them is a Windows machine that basically governs all of our recording stuff. So when we are, it does like our ATEM, it does Companion, it does, we check all of our live streams on that one during the service. We schedule things on there through Resi, a whole bunch of stuff. So that machine is this one. And this is just a standard, I think it's Windows 10, maybe, Windows 11, I don't know. And we're currently running 351. And there's McAfee software on there for some reason. So if I want to go ahead and, yeah, we don't need that. I want to go ahead and update this. Bitfocus Companion. Now, hopefully this doesn't break. Oh, this also runs. So when I said it runs our ATEM, it also runs our automation from our ATEM. So let's just quickly look at this, and maybe we will export. Okay, there it is there. New stable version. I should just go logged in. So for our buttons, we have a 64 X keys device. And these are, oh yeah, here are those buttons in, stop it. Stop that. Windows, I hate you. So here are these buttons in the old version, right? And if you notice, we have a 64 button X keys, which is technically an 80 button X keys with like dividers on it. And so it's convenient in some regards, but these are those dividers. You have to leave a space. That was a kind of a head scratcher to figure that out. Maybe with the new one, it will know. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to export this configuration because I really don't want to screw this up. And so we're going to download that file. And, okay, we're good there. So downloaded that. Now let's go over to Bitfocus. We're going to sign in. Go ahead. All right. And now we're going to say Companion. Stable version is 4.0. 4.2. You can get 4.1. That one's in beta. So I wonder what's coming. I wonder what's coming next, you know? Hopefully they get kind of a module and then it's stable and they're not busy needing you to update all the time. But time will tell. So much activity here on a Thursday morning in my house. I'm not used to having a bunch of people running around the house. All right, so we'll go here. We'll also, I can jump over here real quick and log into the other machine that we use for, yeah, the other machine is a Mac, and this is primarily our ProPresenter machine. And so if you go here, you can see ProPresenter is still running. Let's go ahead and show Companion and launch Companion. This is 535, or I'm sorry, 353. And they have these ad blockers. Okay. A new version is available, but I'm only using it for LightKey and ProPresenter. I will be curious to know when was the last time LightKey was updated. I think they actually keep up with that. So, all right, we're going to sign in here. I'm going to have to use the password. Oh, whoops. Got too many passwords. Which is good. Diversify your passwords, folks. All right, we're going to say download. Latest version, stable for Mac. This is... Oh, yeah. It's Apple Silicon. This is the Studio. The other one is a MacBook Pro, and I'm not too sure what I've got on there. Okay. All right, so we'll download both of these, and I can switch between these two machines pretty easily. So this one's good to go. Let's go ahead and open Companion. We're going to use it for all users. Yep, go ahead. That is where it is installed on this machine. It's pretty lightweight, so I'm not too worried about it being on C drive. This is actually a laptop, technically. It sits up on a stand above everything, and we just kind of monitor whatever it is we need from there. All right, so let's jump back to the other computer, see if it's done. Nope, not quite done downloading yet. All right, let's go ahead and run Companion. It's kind of nice that they worked it. If you're already running Companion, it shuts it off for you and then reruns it. So now, Houston, we have a problem. Here we go. We now have all of this stuff done. So browse and install modules directly from Companion's interface. Import module bundle files with environments without internet access. Ooh, that's nice. X-Keys button layout simplification. Since 3.2, it's been possible to change the size. All right. Between physical, this new layout is the default for all installs of Companion. Prior to this, the mapping of X-Keys buttons had to be compressed to translate the 32 button pages. Starting in 4.0, old support for the old layouts is removed. If you're still using these layouts, you will need to update your buttons to match the new layouts. Oh, all right. So I got to do that tomorrow because they're going to be all jacked up. So 4.0, here we go. And yikes. So this is an X-Keys 60. I'm really nervous to press that button because I'm going to lose a bunch of my functions, I think. It's going to require me to redo it all. Okay, so here is the go ahead and install your missing versions. So boom. 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 Okay, so everything is coming back. That button didn't really work, so we're going to just save. Now, Light Key, we're using... Oh, nice. Okay, there it is. So this is still the old grid. So I'm going to leave it until I am ready to redo this because there are 3 pages, and I like the fact that it is all, 1 to 60 or 1 to 60. I thought it was a 64 button. Am I wrong? Let's look at this real quick. X-Keys 60. Programmable 60. Yeah, okay, it's the 60. I was wrong. I have been wrong before, and I will definitely be wrong again. So this is the one that we have without those fancy printed buttons. Okay, so it's the 60. So this is right, but resize this grid to fit. Is it going to jack up all my buttons? Because I don't really want to do that for Sunday. I don't want to commit myself to reprogramming all this, especially if I'm not there, because I'm going to need to reference the device to remember all of it. So it's going to be a bit of a nightmare. Anyway, that's kind of cool. There is an emulator here that's on this machine. Let's jump over to the other computer real quick, which is now finished downloading. And we're going to do the same thing here. Replace Companion. It's currently in use. Okay, so we haven't figured out the Mac side of things yet. To force quit and restart. Replace, please. About 700 megs. Okay. Evidently we're done. So now we're going to close. Let's go to Companion. Let's go ahead and launch that. Yep, it's safe. Don't worry. And now we're going to go to the GUI. All right, so modules are here. Let's go ahead and update missing modules. Boom, boom, done. Great. Let's say buttons. Now this is another 15. And so I will go into the settings. Oops. Settings, surfaces. Nope, that's not where it was. Settings, buttons, edit column size. And we got to go save. And now we go back to buttons, and there it is. So that's super duper nice. We can make that a little bigger if we want. Oh, and it knows this X-Keys 8. I used to have an X-Keys 8 plugged into this thing, but the X-Keys 8 is a strip, and it does not have that satisfying clicking feeling. It's a hard button, so it's just like you're tapping a rock is what it feels like. It works, but maybe I'll bring it home and do some testing with it. Maybe I can figure out a place here that I could use it. Yeah, but I'm not thrilled with the tactile of the X-Keys 8, and I thought it was going to be really handy, and we ended up getting a Stream Deck because it has that push, you know, like that satisfying click. So that's what we're doing here. Also, Light Key Connect, I'm a little concerned the lights are on. We can check that. These are this key. Yep. All right, so wakey wakey. Some updates were installed because ProPresenter did not quit. Quit ProPresenter. Try again. Why are you updating anything? So this is Light Key. All the keys are currently off. So that's what I want. I don't want my lights on. Sometimes when this computer restarts, it defaults to lights on 100%. And it's really annoying. And I think it's just the way that it... Maybe I should save it this way. Save. Let me open that screen. I think that's screen number 1. All displays, screen 1? Yeah. All right, so if we go into Light Key settings, can I set this as the default? Right? I want this. This is the setup that I want when it loads. Rename, close project, open. Fixtures, presets. Nope. Manage live pages. Because if I quit Light Key and then I come back to it and I open it, oh, now it's off. Well, maybe I just needed to save it then. I know when I update Light Key, it turns all the lights on. It's really annoying because I don't want that. I just want it to load like this. So, ooh, here's a question I have. Manage fixtures. Yeah. So, in the new version, let's go down here. Do they have native support for SWIT? No. Search for fixtures. All right, so I'm going to have to use a generic DMX command. Probably like this guy. Do I have... Whoa. That's a lot. Sample move cam. Oh. What about just sample switch? This is what I want. Add one fixture, generic switch. Okay, so that's what I want. I think. The Pentagraph, here's an interesting thing. The Pentagraph that we bought, and I'm getting into 2 weeks from now what the show is going to be about, Pentagraph is DMX controlled. And so we can use light key, and then I can use companion to basically turn a switch on and turn it off. And when you turn the switch on, it comes down. And then when you turn it off, it stops. And then when you turn it on, it goes back up. And then when you turn it off, it stops. It's a strange way of doing it. You would think that they would have two DMX commands, right? One would be for down, one would be for up. Because what if you need to go down, but then you want to go down a little more? Or what if you need to go down, you went too far, and then you want to go up, but then, like you want to be able to finesse it a little bit with an up and a down button. But the way that they had it programmed at NAB was that they had a lighting board, and they would raise it to 100% and the pentagraph would come down, and then they'd lower it to 0 and it would stop. And then they'd raise that same slider to 100% and it would go up, and then they'd turn it off and it would go off. So I'm going to have to monkey around with that and test some things and see if there isn't a command, a DMX command that's independent from, here we go. So that's independent from both the on and the off button. We got the DMX, this one, that's like 20 feet. Yeah, it's 20 feet. And the thing that I want you to notice here is the 5-pin DMX input and loop outs for serial connections. So it can take DMX control for up and down positioning, allowing users to adjust the height in the studio lights effortlessly with a DMX console. Feature provides convenience for professionals who need quick and precise lighting adjustments. So there's got to be a way. The guys that showed it to us were selling lights. And we walked by their booth and we were like, oh, hey, like those pentagraphs, those are cool. We need one of those for our camera. And they were like, okay, let's talk about it. And then they didn't have any information on them. So they had actually brought pentagraphs. They bought them, I guess, or rented them from Swit and then used them. And we were interested in the mounts and they were interested in the light fixtures, trying to sell us the lights. And what was hilarious is, and here's something that bugs me about NAB that I noticed on multiple stands, not just at this one, which will remain nameless because I can't remember their name. The thing about NAB is that companies send their people to those shows who don't quite understand how to differentiate what people are asking. Okay? Let's try this one. We can try this one more time. Is like when I come to your booth and I say, I'm very interested in the pentagraph that you have up there. Don't try and sell me a light fixture. Because they immediately were like, oh, cool. What sort of lights do you have? I said, no, we want to put something else on it that would be lighter than that light. But we really want to talk about that light fixture. Now, the two avenues that you could go down is, oh, well, these are just kind of like we borrowed these, but that's not really what we're selling here. Or you can say, okay, tell us about your payload, and we can compare it to what it is that we're doing here. Instead, they went back to, oh, do you need lights? And I was like, all right, man. It happened at another place too. We went and we complained about our headsets to Saramonic, and I did a update about this one. I called them out on this. We went to Saramonic, to their booth, and we said, look, we're having all these issues with these headsets that we bought about 8 months ago. And they're dropping connection. They don't really seem to be very robust. Two of them are already broken. The batteries are dying quickly, or the batteries aren't even working in some of them. So we've had to replace them and stop using them. We bought the battery charger. We bought the hub. The battery charger whistles while it's charging the batteries. Like it has this high-pitched squeal. And if we take the batteries out, it stops. And we put them in, it squeals. So what's up? What's going on here with these things, guys? Like, I kid you not. They said to us, oh, those are first gen. You should buy next gen, or these ones. So we bought these less than 8 months ago. Listen to the words I'm saying. We spent a few $1,000s, granted not Clearcom money. Okay, we spent wireless headset money, but we gave them a few $1,000s and then gave them a few more $1,000s to correct the issues we were having. We continue to have issues with these headsets. We're not satisfied with the way that they perform. Here are our problems. What do you guys? What do you say? I think The issue was they were all salespeople, nobody in support. Okay? This is a failure of companies who do not understand why support needs to be at trade shows, because you need people to talk about how to fix the current problems they have so they have faith in your new ones. And if you only take salespeople, you get these sort of responses. That's the kindest way I can put it. These sort of responses that basically say, I hear your problems, buy the new ones. You having problems with your camera? Look at our new one. Oh, but I can't set. I'm having issues on the network. The new ones, they're wireless. The new ones, they, static IP, or they can just run on any network. That sort of garbage. And you don't actually have somebody who can talk to you about, tell me about the problems you're currently having and let me fix them for you right here on the floor. Then that customer turns around from being frustrated with the experience they've had using your headsets or using your cameras or whatever. And it's like, hey, these guys have solutions for the problems I have. I can buy their new ones. When I'm here to buy next time, I will buy their new ones because they can fix the problems on their old ones. That's the dynamic. When you don't take people who can competently handle support questions at mass inflow, which means you probably need more than one support person, especially if you're using or manufacturing products from a inexpensive manufacturer, okay? You need to be able to support those products so your customers have faith that you're not just abandoning them in the hopes that they'll buy new ones and, oh, don't worry, the new ones will work. That is the vibe we got from Saramonic, and it turned us off completely. I now have a completely different setup that I'm planning on buying. I'm going to spend more money to get wired headsets that will not fail me, that I can control independently, that will be all digital. We looked at Clearcom. We talked to a whole bunch of companies, and then I found a way to do it, which makes a whole lot more logical sense than investing $20,000 in a Clearcom system. So we found a way that can be expandable, that will be wired, so we're not going to be dropping stuff. That could be Dante enabled. I'm going to do that part. I'm going to do that. I'm going to invest money, and I'm going to send $0 to the manufacturer that we used the first time, because when we went there and we asked them our questions, nobody could help us. Their solution was buy new. It was so maddening. We walked away, and my coworker and I both said, well, that's the last Saramonic product I will ever buy. Because, and beyond that, the things that were even more frustrating was that they didn't have any support answers. They tried to get us to look at the new products, and the features on the Gen 2 look kind of janky like the first gen. So, no thanks. And they tried to give us a bunch of swag that we came there with complaints, and they tried to give us like, oh, take this bag, and here's our new catalog, and here's some stickers, and here's a bunch of, we were like, stop. We don't want this stuff until you fix our problems. And so you need somebody there that can talk to you about the real, yes, we know that the battery charger whistles in the Gen 1. There isn't a fix for it. We're really sorry. Like we found out about that. Somebody that can say that and mean it clearly. If you're having issues on firmware with your products, somebody needs to say, we're having that issue. We're working on a solution. We don't have one yet. They need to be able to say that and mean it. The customer won't run away from you. If you say that you're aware of the issue and you're working on it, but you don't have a solution, they don't run away. They give you some time. Now, if you don't deliver, then you lose that customer anyways. But if you say, buy new ones, you lose the customer right there. So you might as well be honest, truthful. You might as well be concerned that somebody invested in your company, in your products, bought them, and really want to make them work. Any other method is the sign of a dying company. Any other method. All the business courses, all of the leadership, all the management courses, the thing that they all say is your character, your moral character, and how you behave, the things that you say, They all better line up with your actions. So don't announce updates. Don't announce new products if they're not ready. Don't try and you can resell to a customer that you currently have a lot easier when they believe in the products they have. And if you have to make a hard pivot away from, say, Gen 1 headsets that don't work and the batteries that whistle, you need to have a game plan for that. Like, we can sell you the Gen 2s at half the price if you send us your Gen 1s. I might try that. Honestly, I might go with that. But I'm definitely not going to go with buying Gen 2s at full price when I have all these Gen 1s, because am I going to be able to sell the Gen 1s? No. Why are you selling the Gen 1s? Oh, because we're upgrading? No, there's all these strange things that happen. So, all right, my soapbox is done. I did not intend to finish the show down that avenue, but it is frustrating when you walk up to a booth and they're all salespeople and they can't talk to you about real. I'll throw out Blackmagic here, okay? Blackmagic made a misstep. First of all, and the booth was amazing. The people there were amazing. Don't get me wrong, all right? If I'm going to think critically about Blackmagic, who I harped on for 2 shows about what we're doing next with their stuff at the soundstage. When we went to the Blackmagic booth with our questions, we had like, how do we do this type of question? Every time, we went to the booth 3 times in total, twice on the second day and once on the third day. Every time we went there, we had to talk through 2 different salesmen before we got to basically the department head who could answer our questions. And I asked some guys that know Blackmagic that maybe work there or have worked there, and they said, yeah, the problem is the booth is so big that they really need people to man the different booths, and they don't have the luxury of everybody having really deep knowledge about specific things. And so they might get a team and say, all right, you guys are the cloud guys. Okay, you guys are the camera guys. You guys are the comms guys. For example, on the last day, we went with a comms question and said, we see the talkback option on some of our devices, our Blackmagic devices. We'd like to integrate those with our system. We talked to a guy for like 15 minutes, and he showed us the back of his rack, and we were like, yeah, how do we do this? What's the pinout connections? After about 15 minutes, he said, let me see if I can get a hold of somebody that can answer these like tech questions for you. Basically saying, I don't know. We got a hold of this guy who like has a whole test kitchen in his basement of wiring headsets, different headsets to their Blackmagic stuff, including Clearcom, including XLR, including all these different standards. And he was like, yep, I have basically every pinout mapped for all the common systems, for like the top 30 systems that you could possibly buy, to integrate our Clearcom, our talkback ports into whatever it is that you're taking in as you're routing. I don't expect everyone to have a test kitchen in their basement. I do, however, expect that the people that are manning the booth to know what the pinouts are for the talkback ports if you're the comms guy. If you're manning the comms station, that seems like a pretty obvious question, right? Like, what is the pinout on the port? The guy running it should not be somebody standing in. And it turned out that the guy that we really needed to talk to was available, or was there. We just had to wait our turn for him to be available. But that was... So my complaint about the BirdDog or the Blackmagic booth is they had a lot of people wearing Blackmagic on their shirts, but they really didn't have their people knowledgeable on at the booth about what's coming. And so we talked about cloud management, about the system that we now have integrated, and we said, here's what we want to do, this, and we got a lot of and then finally we found the guy that was in charge of the development, and he stood there and he's like, yep. He's like, I can list off like 6 different companies, big companies, that are doing that with that configuration. That's all I need to hear. Yes, that will work. That is how they do it. That's all I need to hear. That's all I need to know. But it took us, I think that conversation took us 45 minutes to get that answer. And now granted, Blackmagic was busy. It was an impressive booth and really cool stuff coming out this year. But nobody really knew the answers until we talked to the head of that stand, that little sub-department, and then he could confirm it for us. Just like the comms, just like cloud, we didn't really have many camera questions, but we did have a couple. But we had 2 sets of cloud questions, including things like Hyperdeck. And then we went and saw stuff with, what's it called? Their green screen stuff and dang it, now I can't remember. Now I'm going to have to look it up. Anyways, we had questions about that, and we actually found a different booth that was doing it and showed us how to do it, and that was great. Converters, disc recorders, Ultimate. So the Ultimate product, the 12 4K, this thing right here, this is what we're getting. This is like green screen on steroids. I'm so excited about this because it fixes the green screen problem that we have. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to go and do something like this. Anyway, I'm out of time and my company is here. Hang on one second. I had a custom cable made to integrate ATEM TalkBack. It works great once you figure it out. And that's what this guy said. He said, I have all the pinouts, so we can create custom cables for you and integrate into whatever system you want. Just tell me the make and model and tell me the Blackmagic device you have, and we can make it happen. Awesome. That's what I need to hear. That's what I need to know. And that means that I'm going to go to Blackmagic first. When I'm thinking I want to do something, I'm going to look at them as a major contender because I know they sent people to the show that can answer the technical questions. Now, granted, they needed more people like that, but they at least had people. They weren't just all sales guys. The layer 1 you had to work through to get your technical questions answered were all sales guys, but then we passed through that layer to the department heads, and they were able to at least give us a hand. Unlike some other booths we visited, and they were not able to do that. Now, shout out to Netgear. I was able to have FaceTime, not FaceTime on the phone, but literal time with these people. John from Netgear, who is still doing great things. The man looked completely exhausted when I got a chance to talk to him because people were constantly... John Hinkle, though, who I interviewed when I was with Bird Dog at NAB 22, had a chance to follow up with him with my new coworker and say, here's what we're doing. He sent me the 4250 switch that he had as like an old demo, and he didn't want to like mothball it, and so he graciously let me use it. So it's here, courtesy of John Hinkle. And so I went and I just wanted to thank him for always advocating for me when I was at Bird Dog, but now even in this new venture and on this show, he kind of supplies us with, because we do some tutorials, and I'm happy to talk about those things if anybody wants to talk about those things. So John, I got a chance to talk to John, and then their little lesson session ended, and I got a chance to talk to, is it Laurent? It's Laurent, because Levent was over at Bird Dog. Netgear. Oh, you know what? I'll look him up on LinkedIn, because I think I follow him. I always get his name wrong. Laurent. There he is. He is, and I should connect with him. Oh, I'll do that after the show. So this guy is the architect. He talks about the 4250 and the 4350 series, these switches, like they're his children. He is seriously very personable. I got to actually shake his hand again, just say thank you for all the free advice and time you spent with us at Bird Dog, and we're using your stuff at this new gig I'm working at. Tell me about your new rig. Here's what I'm thinking about maybe implementing at the soundstage one day. And he graciously took me on a 25-minute tour of his beautiful new line 3350s, or 3350s, 4350s, I'm sorry, and was just, didn't rush it, it just advocated for, the beauty of the system, and I was very impressed with just how he did this. So if you don't know who this guy is, you can look him up on LinkedIn, look him up on YouTube, on the Netgear site. Look up John Hinkle. Amazing resource if you're doing the 4250 stuff, 4350 stuff. These guys have just been crazy gracious over the years for me personally, and at Bird Dog when I worked there. And we definitely, again, I just can't say enough good stuff about them because they took their time with me even at a busy show. We did go to their booth on day 2, and so they weren't quite as busy as they were on day 1. But again, this sort of guy at most companies wouldn't take more than a minute to greet me and then go on to the next big thing that was coming by. And I'm pretty sure there was a large network waiting to talk to him after I was done. So more than one time somebody said, I'm here with CNN this year, or I'm here with MSNBC, or I'm here. I heard that all around me. And so, big shout out to Laurent. He was very gracious with his time, and I'm very appreciative to him and John. Okay, so this booth, Netgear, knocked it out of the park this year. They just had a very simple setup, but they were able to show you everything that they were able to do. And again, John took time to meet with me in the middle of his insanely busy schedule. So thank you, sir. And again, Laurent too. Blackmagic did a pretty good job at their booth. They were able to manage the crowds pretty well. I didn't see them on day 1, but day 2 it looked pretty busy, but pretty well managed. And then on Bird Dog, their booth was pretty well managed. There was a support guy there, but he is now a product manager, so technically they didn't have support there. If I was gonna pick somebody out of the support team, Christian Frink would be a great guy to have there, just because he's always got his hands, he's knee deep in all of that sort of stuff. And now he's a product manager, and rightly so. He makes sense to be a project manager for the company. And so Frink was there, and CJ was there, who is the other project manager, just strangely absent from any other, like, no ticketing agents. Clay wasn't there, and maybe Clay didn't want to be there, or Cece, or Brayton. Any of these guys, it would have been great to have some technical people that could handle some deeper technical questions about networking and product resiliency and repair, even, because the repair department is a real thing. And it was a little weird that when we first started, we weren't thinking we were going to do any repairs at Bird Dog, and it turned out to be a major thing that we need to do for the U.S. market, but also the world. So, a little more of that. Did I show you guys this? Now I'm blanking. I think I did. This is Laurent. They had a pretty good showing. I was there kind of wanting to see their new stuff, but also just, I miss those guys. I miss and gals. I actually hadn't met some of the people that I worked with. So that was a chance to actually meet a couple of people that I hadn't actually seen. Was able to, including Josh, by the way, who was basically my boss at the end, Josh Bernstein, who really did a great job with a lot of their cameras, but their programming standards were raised up quite heavily when Josh came on. And so it was great to finally see him and, get to just have a chat. It was good. So Bird Dog, I was there for like multiple reasons. Their booth was great, but they, I definitely wasn't there just for the product. Blackmagic, Bird Dog, Netgear, and then a couple of the booths that I was a little underwhelmed with. So I talked about Ceramonic. I was actually underwhelmed with the Insta360 booth. They chose at NAB to really push the action camera, like GoPro. A lot of salespeople, a lot of young salespeople, people in their early 20s, who I think they were thinking they were going to get a lot of like action camera people coming to the booth. So I showed up and I was like, where's the successor to the 1-inch? And they were like, we're not doing a 1-inch. They were like, the X5. And then I said, no, where is the successor to the 1-inch camera? Because now that you have 8K sensors and everything, a 1-inch lens with all that light would outshine probably the low light performance of the X5. I eventually got to a guy who was, I think, in his 40s, who was a keynote, I found out later on. I looked at their pamphlet and his face was on there speaking at 11 o'clock. I was like, oh. He said, well, I don't technically work for Insta360, but I am kind of integrated with the leadership, and so I'm here to talk about their new product line and how, and he's like, I use them obviously, but I was able to really get some answers out of him, and he said, we're not shelving the 1-inch, but right now our focus is on the X5. And so that was coming up. So the X5 and their little Ace Pro thing, which I don't understand why. I said, so this was an interesting conversation. I said, so why we're watching GoPro kind of tap out of their market? Like they don't really have anywhere else to go, ironically. And their product is kind of as good as it's going to be. And they're kind of going out of business if I'm not mistaken. What is the deal? Why are you guys pushing a GoPro style camera? Like, isn't the writing on the wall? And he said, quite honestly, I don't know why we're pushing that thing, because our world should be 360 and it should be the X5, or I think it was the X4 was the thing that was out at the time. I don't think they had announced the X5, but he said the X4, he said there's some stuff coming up in the near future. And I was like, a 1-inch? And he was like, no, not a 1-inch. And I was like, he's like the successor to whatever this is. And he pointed to the X4. Now, granted, I have been impressed with the X5. Like the footage I've seen and the reviews that have come out, they have done X5 over the old 1-inch, the RS 1-inch, and it does outperform the 1-inch camera. I will admit that. I won't buy a 1-inch because they're out of stock, first of all, but also the X5 does a better job at low light than the 1-inch. But then I'm like, well, are you going to launch a 1-inch after I buy an X5, and then I'm going to be kicking myself that I just didn't wait long enough? So there's that. YouTube adventures are a big enough addressable market, I think. Yes. Here's the thing is, if you're a travel YouTuber or if you're documenting your travels and putting them on YouTube, you either go one of two ways. You either go DSLR, which give you a lot of options in terms of lenses and coloration. And if you get really good with your DSLR or your mirrorless or whatever you're running. And so I think of like, is it Kara and Nate? Is that their name? There's a travel couple who are actually from Nashville. And if I go to their channel, not Kate, Nate and Kara. So yeah, these two have been traveling around the world for years, and I've been following them for many years. They document their personal life. They document what it's like to travel in various styles of transport. It's a very fascinating series. If you haven't seen these two before, I highly recommend going to their playlists and looking up their trip to their cruise to Antarctica. That was really well done. And here it is. We went to Antarctica. So this playlist is a really well done documentary, we'll say. And they're like 15, 20 minutes. And it's fun to watch. It's cute. They do it right. Well, I think they're shooting most of this on DSLR or on mirrorless. And because sometimes they're on a mirror and they show it. So the YouTube adventure thing, I think if you're serious about it, you might sacrifice the weight and the bulk of a camera like an RP or something like that, or even the Sony A series, the Sony cameras that are flat but have interchangeable lenses. You're going to get a much better picture of that than that kind of like super wide or almost fisheye GoPro look. People want to watch something that kind of looks like a TV show, not something that looks like it was strapped to your head. like the head mount, that always confused me. Like, why do I want to? Anyway, whatever. So they're either going to go this way or they're going to go uber cheap, like cell phone. And these guys do shoot things on their cell phones as well especially when they're in foreign countries and things like that. They just snap their cell phone and they take video that way, because that's the ultimate, because it does so many other things. A GoPro is kind of like trying to be somewhere in the middle, and I think it's a cute idea. It's a great entry level, but it's not, I don't know, it doesn't look like something I want to watch all the time. So I tend to think that the GoPro market, there's not enough extremists out there to want to document their extreme adventures to keep a company like that, like making that their flagship product. Now, Insta360, I said, look, to the guy, the keynote guy, I said, I think that like from what I can tell, your niche market is 360 video. And making it available for cell phones, and that you can do portrait or that you can do whatever, that's great. Those are good features to have. But like your thing is 360 video, and I think that there's nobody out there that's really driving that other than Insta360 and doing it at this rate and this quality. So like, go for it. Go for that market. And here's why you want a 360 camera. You know, you edit and post, and it gives you all sorts of versatility, and you can also then crop it so that it looks flat, and you can also crop it so it looks like a globe or whatever. But I do think that they're trying to tap into that. Like, we also do action cameras. Maybe they're just trying to like pick up the GoProers to bring them over to Insta360. But I don't know. I don't think that the GoPro look is what it's fine for, like B-roll maybe, but I still don't really like it. I have a GoPro. I have a GoPro 3, and I never use it. I'm going to give it to my daughter. She can use it. Okay. Soapbox done. Another soapbox. And now it is 11:38, so I do need to sign off and get on with whatever it is I'm getting on with today. So thank you so much for coming by. Always appreciate your attendance and your interaction here in the chat. Shout out to Angus, Randy, and Chad, who are my faithful three, I guess. Today we're missing a couple of other guys, but all good. Life gets busy, and I understand. Check out Companion 4.0.2. I give it the thumbs up. Did we even finish the install on these other computers? So yep, this one's 4.2, and this one is now 4.0.2. So yes, we're 4.0.2 is the number. They're updated and connected and going just fine. I don't want to press this button just yet because I'm a little nervous about what it's going to do to my X keys. But we will probably do that. If I'm at the soundstage tomorrow, which is the plan, and we are done, then I might need to take screenshots of all of these and then rework them into... The question is, if I hit resize, does it change the buttons? And if not, should I change the buttons now and then hit resize? You know what I mean? So maybe what I'll do is I'll resize the grid first and see what happens, and then re-import my configuration. If it doesn't move the buttons, then I'll re-import my configuration and then move the buttons in the program and then hit resize again. And then we should be okay. So maybe it won't take me too long, but I don't want to do it while I'm here because I can't see what's going on at the soundstage. So I'll do that tomorrow and report back next week. Thank you so much, everybody. Always appreciate you. Thank you for hanging out with me. Take care of yourselves. Now, next week I'm not here. Next week I'm in Virginia. So come back in 2 weeks when I'm going to give full updates and integration on a SWIT pentagraph. They are really cool devices, and they basically are a scissor lift for your camera or lighting system. And we saw them at NAB. We were very impressed by them, and we bought one. We had to import it from Europe. So power and all that, we're going to have to figure that out. But we're going to get it up and running, I hope, tomorrow. And then I'm going to have to program it. I think we want to try and get it done by Sunday. But, with company over and us going out of town and everything, it may be 2 or 3 weeks before we really get this thing done. So tomorrow is our chance to really, if everything arrives, it all works well, tomorrow's our chance to get that done. But It all has to kind of go perfectly in order for us to figure that out. So we will hold our breath. All right, guys. Take care of yourselves. Always a pleasure. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks right here, back here on YouTube. Take care of yourselves, and we'll talk again soon.